All right, everyone, we'll get started. I'll leave you a few seconds just to get seated in this nice and cozy room. All right. Since we're in Belgium, I want to talk about beers. It's a pretty famous use case. It comes from MIT, and it goes as follows. It's a network of different stakeholders working together, and they're used to the same business again and again and again. They have a demand every week of 4 packs of beers, which means that the retailer, they order 4 packs of beer to the distributor, and the wholesaler does the same to the brewery. And it's all nice and clean, everyone is happy, until one day, somehow, for a reason that's completely random, they get an order for 10 packs of beer. And it's really weird. It comes from nowhere. Maybe it's because there's the Odoo experience and people are really thirsty. We don't know. But the retailer, when they see that, they say, wow, that's 2.5 more than usual. Something is happening. The market is booming. So you know what we'll do? We'll be really smart. And we will order 12 packs of beer so that we have just a security margin, just in case. The distributor does the same and is like, well, 12 packs of beer, that's 3 times what I usually do. So let's take a security margin and let's order 20 packs of beer just to be sure so that we don't have missing stock and that we can be really, really sharp. And the wholesaler sees it and says, wow, 5 times as many beers as usual. We need to call the brewery. Let's order 40 packs of beer just to be sure because something big is happening. The brewery goes crazy, they call back people from holiday, they cancel all the side projects, they work really hard, and they make everything possible to be ready to ship the 40 packs of beers. What happened at the end of the week? The demand goes back to 4. And then everything collapses. Everyone is sitting on big piles of packs of beer, wondering what to do with it, and everyone is complaining that it's because of the others, that something went wrong. And what happened? Well, what happened is that they only knew part of the story. Per se, nobody here was doing something stupid. They did what they could with the information that they had available to them. And it may sound a bit silly when we talk about beers and these networks of different companies, but chances are it could be the same with your own company, between departments, right? You hire a lot of beautiful and smart people, but with time they start to work on different projects or in different teams, and the exact same happen. People just know they're part of the story, they just have their own piece of the puzzle, and then something goes wrong. How can we make sure we don't get there? Well, we have an app for that. It's called Knowledge, and today we'll talk about what's new in Knowledge. My name is Luc, I'm the product owner of that app, and I'm really happy to be able to show you all the new things we added on top of showing you the app and how it works in general. All right. You probably know the drill by now. Here you have a QR code and a link. It should lead you to a pad. If you have any question, you can just put it there, and depending on the time available, we'll go through those at the end of the talk. Now, if you have a specific use case or suggestion, feedback, anything, just come to the product booth and we'll be really happy to have a look if you need more time. All right, without further ado, let's get started. As I said, you have different teams. You have salespeople, R&D people, service people, and they do the job really well. They are really smart people, so with time they start to accumulate a lot of know-how, right? Salespeople have videos about how to do a demo or how to handle a customer that's really annoying. R&D people know how to fix things really well. And the service team, they know how to implement a feature, how to troubleshoot a problem, etc., etc. But what you have here, actually, are information silos. Those are closed containers with information that's not available to everyone. And the problem is that then you get in the exact same case as the beer case study, where people don't work as efficiently as they could, and a lot of mistakes can be made just because they don't have the information available. With time, it's going to be even worse. If your company keeps growing, then each team will become their own silo, because they will each accumulate their own specific know-how and knowledge on how to do their job. That's clearly not what we want to do. What we want to do is instead to gather all that scattered know-how and make sure we make it available to everyone, because everyone could need that. After all, if we're all working in the same company, chances are at some point, even if we're not in the same department, we will face the same challenges. What you want is thus not information silos, but a single source of truth, a place where whenever you need something, you can go there and retrieve it. After all, as a salesperson, yeah, I'm good at doing demo, but what if I could troubleshoot the issues myself? As a consultant, maybe I will be forced to sell features, and it's good if I have the required documentation to do it well, etc., etc. So we want to try to centralize everything so that everyone can work efficiently. Which means it's about time to invest in your knowledge. Now, when you talk about investment, you may wonder, like, is it worth the effort? After all, if you are an SME or even just a big company, chances are you are going to say, I have a lot of things to do already, so why bother? Let's take another specific and concrete example from real life. It's called Eureka. You probably know the Xerox printers. Well, they had a lot of really good technicians that with time had a lot of knowledge about how to fix those machines. The thing is, that's the way I picture it, at least. They had technicians that could just listen to the printer and guess what was wrong because they had been doing it for a while. The problem is that they also had technicians that were younger and not as experienced, and that they were facing a lot of issues because they didn't know all that. So what they do is just they created a simple platform called Eureka, where every technician could just share their tips and tricks, the things they're using, and it would be reviewed by their peers. What happened after that? Well, they started saving $20 million per year. Why is that? Well, because all of a sudden, they needed less spare parts, they were able to troubleshoot issues faster, they had to come back less often to fix issues because everyone became more efficient. So now normally you should be convinced and wondering how to get there. Well, I call it the 3 C's. You need to centralize your knowledge, you need to collaborate, and then you need to channel it. Let's see how Odoo knowledge can help you get there. All right, first, who here hasn't spent an eternity looking for a piece of information? Was it written in an email? Or was it a spreadsheet? Was it on a Dropbox, a Google Drive, a shared calendar? It was somewhere. You're sure that you read it somewhere, but you just can't find it. Well, the goal here is to centralize everything to avoid having to search around. You want everything in a single place. So how do we do it? Let's have a look. So knowledge is over here. And if you've used some knowledge systems or you already know knowledge, you see that here I have all my articles organized with the hierarchy. For example, under Sales Playbook, I have some sale-related information. And I can just, for example, close it here, right? So whenever I need something, let's say I'm facing a printer that is jammed, I don't have to search into different PDFs, my inbox, etc. I just search with a few keywords. This is searching in all my knowledge articles, and I can jump directly into the article that I need, which explains how to do what I'm supposed to do. So, okay, cool. If you use knowledge, you already know it. You see, however, that we now have toggles, because sometimes some articles are really, really long, so you don't want to have a big wall of text. Instead, people can just click and open the information that they need. If you already had to write some documentation, you know that's really handy to make sure that it doesn't look like something too scary. All right, then we also have transcripts. As I said, the goal is to centralize everything. So, for example, here in the meeting minutes, I could have a place where I track all our meetings and all the things that we discuss during those meetings. For example, here we had a product meeting this morning, and you see I have a new block in here. It's a transcription block. It's by using AI, we listen to whatever is happening, and we just transcript everything. So here, if I go on the transcript tab, this is, for example, the conversation that we were having, okay? You just turn the mic on, and it starts recording. When you stop listening, you get a summary here with all the key decisions, etc. And you can tweak if you want a specific format, for example, something for a mail recap, etc. You can tweak it like this. If you want to send the agenda and what was discussed at the end of the meeting, you just click on share by email, and you have the usual email composer where you can send it, for example, to everyone that was at the meeting, or people that weren't there, so that they get the key information. Again, we store it as text, so if you want to search to retrieve that later, you know it's living in there. Okay, what else can we do? We can use clipboards. So clipboards is not a new feature, but I think it's worth showing it yet again. You see here, for example, I have a grid, and I want every salespeople to use the same grid. I want to have a clear process for everyone, so that if you need to work on a lead, you know how it looks like, and you have the information you need. So what I do is I put everything inside a clipboard. Now, when I'm in the CRM, and I'm here, for example, on a lead, instead of having to, search around and copy and paste, I start with a lead here that has an empty description. I go here, and I look for the call sheet. Here you go. You see that now I have some extra buttons over here in the clipboard, including Use as Note. Why is that? Well, Odoo knows that I'm coming from a lead. So if I click here, as it knows which leads, it's bringing my template, basically, that I can store there, and I can reuse it whenever I want. Now, whenever I'm starting to work on a new lead, I get the transcript, I get my grid here, and everybody's going to work the same way. So, a lot of things that we can do to centralize information, make sure that everything is available to everyone. What's next? Well, we want to make sure that we are on the same page. We've all been through that, the pain of working with people that use their own PowerPoints or Words or Excel sheets, where you need to exchange files per email is just always a mess. We don't want that, and so in Knowledge, we have real-time collaboration, where you can work with different people on the same document. But collaboration goes further. We have a lot of different features that we can use, such as, for example, templates. If you work a lot on Knowledge, maybe you have a lot of files that, well, you use this structure a lot and you just need to fill in the form. So when I click on Browse Template here, you see here I have a specific template that's just mine. It's not an Odoo default template. I decided to add it here because whenever someone needs to do a press release, for example, here is the structure they should follow. How do you do that? Well, you just take whatever article you want, and you have here, Add to Templates. That's it. Now, when people will need it, it's available in the Knowledge library, and people can make sure that they always work together with the same format, etc. All right. Then we also have anchors. It's a pretty cool feature because basically, let's see, if I take a longer article, you probably already went through this. You want to send this part to someone, but they just don't get what you mean, and so they look around at the top of the article. Now, in Odoo, when you have this small button here, you can click, and you get a link that will auto-scroll directly to that section. So again, if you have a lot of long documentations and you're exchanging about specific things, this is how you can do it, and you can just send a link that will make sure that they get on the same page as you are. Okay, cool. I will put AI on the side for now, and let's just go to the next step. Okay, cool, we centralize everything and we work together, that's nice, but who wants to sit on a pile of books? After all, at some time, we need to make sure that we put this knowledge to work. It's only in that sense that we are going to be able to make something out of it. That's where the channeling part comes in. The idea is you don't do all this writing for nothing, you do it because then it helps you do your job better. A few things we can do with that. Well, first, let's say you want to release a quick internal documentation. For example, here, I have a few tips and tricks and I want to share them with customers. I don't want this on my website, I just want to be able to send a link to customers that need it, for example, when I'm doing support. Well, if I go in share, you see here that I see all the specific people that have access to it, but I can also publish it on the web. If I open this link here, I'm not logged to that database, but I still have access to those articles, okay? And I even have a search because I have quite a few articles, so it could be handy as a customer to be able to look around. You see that I don't have all the articles appearing here. I'm just a visitor, so I get access to what has been published and sent to me. And it really allows you to have different, for example, teams sharing different information with customers based on what they need, whether they are customers or suppliers, etc. All right. Then how can we go further? Well, let's talk a bit about AI now. You already saw probably that you can just ask for improvements when you select text through the button here. So it works in Knowledge as well. It works everywhere in Odoo when you have HTML fields. But we could want to do more things. For example, this article is really long. I know that some of my customers, they are a bit lazy, or maybe some of my colleagues. So what I do here is I can add properties on my knowledge articles. So what's a property? It's an extra field that you create just for this use case. So I go here and I say, for example, I call it summary. What's the field type? Well, I want some text with a few lines and I want it to be done by AI. Here is where you write your prompt and this is where the magic happens. So I would say, for example, write a short summary of the following text. Now what I need to do is to make sure that I give this text to the AI so that it can actually read it. So I will go /field and then I look for body. So here what you see in blue, body, will be replaced before we send the request to the AI. If you want to have an answer straight away and you don't want to work for the scheduled task, you can just click here and it will compute based on what I have here. For example, you see here I have a quick summary. So you see, once you have this data inside, you can add a lot of fields that do, for example, summaries or find the next decisions or etc., etc. Really, you can do whatever you want with AI. The idea is we can retrieve this text and do cool things with it. Cool. Now, some other things that we can do. Of course, into 2025, nobody wants to search around. You just want to have an AI that can answer a question. And if you have some articles here, you want actually to get answers based on those. This is now something you can do in Odoo 19. You see here, those are my agents. Those are the different bots that I train with specific prompts to do specific things. And I have one called Printer Fixing Assistant. Let's have a look at the configuration. Well, here is the model I'm using, a few technical parameters. Here is what I'm asking it to do. But what's really interesting is look at the sources here. I can now give it any knowledge article on top of PDF files, links, or documents from my database, and I can make sure that it's going to answer based on this. Now, if I have a lot of articles and it's a pretty common and generic topic, it's fine. But if you want really something specific to your needs, then you just say restrict to sources. It tells the AI, don't come up with any random answer only based on what you have here. So if I go here and I say my printer is jammed, the answer that you will get will be based on your own documentations. So for example, here you see that's basically my article in just a few bullet points. I can keep talking and chatting to get specific answers. And considering I'm an internal user, I even have a link to the source that's been used in case I want to have a look at the full article. Now, if I say, what is the capital of France? Of course, ChatGPT knows what's the capital of France, but here we are asking it to only answer based on the documents that we provide, and I did not provide anything related to this. So this way, you're sure that you don't get random answers that have nothing to do with your own specific business or process. This agent could also be shared with customers. That's what we do. For example, if you saw the keynote, the blog that you can put on your website, and this is what we do when you go on odoo.com/help, it's answering based on our own documentation. That's basically how it's working. Okay. If you want to see some other use cases with knowledge, there's a really cool talk tomorrow about how we integrate it with the accounting to generate audit reports. I won't go through it here because there's a really cool talk by Christoph. You have the information there. But if, for example, you are a fiduciary or if you need to provide a lot of financial information at the end of the year, you can see how we use the templates engines and all the editor to make some really nice PDFs that you can then share with your partners. So it's about time you invest in your knowledge. How do you do it? You You centralize everything, you collaborate with your colleagues, and then, and that's the most important part, you channel it, because otherwise it doesn't have any value. Thank you for your attention. All right, here is the pad and the QR code. So if you have questions about knowledge, about anything I showed here, we have a few minutes to discuss those. Yeah? No?
Hello, how are you doing? Many thanks, Luc, for this amazing presentation. I think he deserves some applause.
You had some already.
About the pad question. So first question, sorry. When I search for a page, if the term is not found, knowledge creates immediately a new article when you press enter.
Yeah.
Could we have a better way to resolve this? Advanced search, for example?
So yeah, indeed, you have this, and we offer you to create it. We don't create it unless you press. So yeah, indeed. But I think if you have the agent, you will less use search and more just chat with it if it knows already about all your articles. But otherwise, we don't plan to change this for now because we find it really cool to be able to see that there's no documentation and just create a new one on the fly, and then maybe ask someone to work on it with you, for example.
Okay, thanks. Can the transcript feature recognize different voice or speakers?
No, we use a single microphone, the one of your smartphone or laptop, so we don't know who is who. We just have the global sound. The goal is not to be able to blame others, it's just to make sure that we don't lose information that's been said during a conversation.
Okay, there is one, I think I know the answer, but it's a good question. Can the IA use the knowledge data in other modules to answer questions?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're going deeper in the AI features that I'm not supposed to show today, but once you have an agent that's been trained with your data, you can ask it to do a lot of things. For example, you could say, when I ask you to write an email, do it based on my knowledge articles because you have learned what I need from there, for example. Yeah, so you can do a lot of things once you have this settled.
Okay. There's plenty of questions about AI, strangely. Can we embed YouTube videos into knowledge pages?
Yeah, pretty easy. Whenever you want to insert something in a knowledge article, you go with / and then you can search. And we have one for the videos. We have an example here, and it can be played. It's really useful for indeed a tutorial or a documentation to show how to do stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible to manage multiple separate knowledge bases in Odoo, like engineering and sales?
Usually what you do, it's like what we do internally, you put them under different root articles, and you have, for example, one that's technical and one that's for marketing, etc. You can define who has access to those articles if you really want to be sure that they don't read it, but that's how I would do it, yeah.
Okay, there's plenty of questions now. There were like 3-4 questions just before, and now there's plenty. Can you share online with portal users?
Yeah, and if you share with portal users, you can decide if they can write or not, which is really cool. For example, if you need to fill a form or a grid, you share it to portal users, they can write, complete the documents that you need, and then you can use them in knowledge, yeah.
There is pretty tricky questions. How many languages do transcripts support?
It's actually pretty easy because here I only have a single language installed. If you install different language on the transcript, it would be here. So here you see I don't have anything because I just have English installed. If you have different languages, you would have a language picker here so that it knows in advance in which language you're going to talk. If you have a database in French, by default it will expect French. I think basically all languages should be there because we do it based on the languages you install on your Odoo database.
Okay, makes sense. Can you insert a spreadsheet in a knowledge article?
Not yet, but you can just add a shortcut. You can add a button with a link, but for now we don't have the grid inside your article. Maybe one day it's in the backlog, we'll see.
Okay, question about the money. I use API call, it costs?
If you start a database on Odoo Online right now, you'll see that you have access to it and it's already available for our customers over there. If you have an on-premise database, so you run Odoo on your own machine at home, then you will need to add a key, and then it's your deal with Google or OpenAI that comes into play.
Okay.
But by default, we give it to customers on Odoo Online, like we give the email servers, etc.
Okay, I got one more. Is the agent available for version 18?
No, it's a new version. It's a new feature for version 19. So if you're in 18, you have the editor and a few things like this, but you don't have a few of the features here, like the agent indeed.
Again, about AI, can you use third-party clouds like OneDrive as the source for an AI agent?
I would say you need to test it, but basically, considering you can give it a link here, I guess it depends if your OneDrive accepts to have the content recuperated by ChatGPT. If your OneDrive is fine with that, it should work. For example, you could add a Wikipedia page or something that's published online and it will work. I'm just not sure of the security applied by your own OneDrive. So, to test.
Okay, Luc, last question. Can a task, but not the easiest, yes. Can a task always start with a knowledge article based as a checklist to upon creation? For example, what to talk about with customers?
We don't have a feature that will do it per se, but you can automate it with AI because you saw in the keynote how, for example, it assigns the task based on your prompt. You could do the same and say, for example, when a task is created, do this and this and that, and it could be write my piece of text that I gave you, for example. So yeah, it's something you could do as a customization.
Okay, many thanks, Luc. Many thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
For opening up. Thanks.